guys who was fired the first shot in the Revolutionary War was a pastor. Why? Because they would take up their physical arms, their Second Amendment, and defend their flock with their own life. And today, you contrast it to today, you wouldn't see most pastors wouldn't do that. The CEOs in the pulpit, they would do everything to protect the corporation, and they don't care who it hurts. Now, L. Linwood put this out. I was looking at it or looking for it while you were talking, and he said, "Give me liberty or give me death." And he was quoting Patrick Henry. This was Patrick Henry to the Second Virginia Convention on March 23rd, 1775 at St. John's Church in Richmond, Virginia. It is 1776 in America in 2020. Echo those words, patriots. Give me liberty or give me death. Now, my point is this. Patrick Henry uttered those words, give me liberty or give me death, at St. John's Church. When would you ever hear a pastor in today's corporate lives right now, or corporations that we have, ever say that from the pulpit?
Yeah.
I mean, if you went into a corporation church right now and said that, they'd usher you out. They'd kick you out of the church at this point, because they don't want to offend anyone. This is what you're talking about, passivity right now. It's also a spirit of cowardice, because they don't want to offend people. They don't want to hurt their tithes and offerings. We can go right down the list. But the point is, look at the contrast of when Patrick Henry said that, where he said it, give me liberty, give me death, compared to what we have now. That's where the churches are at right now. That they have literally sucked the warrior spirit out of every man, woman, and child that's ever gone into a church, because it's all about being passive. It's all about, getting along for the sake of unity or this, that, and the other. That's where we're at right now.
A lot of people are talking about, and I get it a lot because I'm so bold on my Facebook posts and stuff like that about the church and the state. And I get attacked all the time. There's supposed to be a separation. There's supposed to be a separation of church and state. And I bring this up for the reason that in those times, the presidents would come to the church for advice. And it was Jefferson that wrote that letter to the Danbury Church that says, you know what? You got this handled. The state's going to back out of your affairs. You advise us. We're not going to advise you. And that's where that whole thing came from. So there's a myth that there's supposed to be a separation church. And when people say, give me a scripture about where Jesus was involved in politics, come on. Who do you think came up with politics? There's a protocol, and even in the kingdom of God, and that protocol was given to earth that we're supposed to represent.
Yeah. And look, the stealing of the prophetic words, and why is the prophetic out of control right now? Someone shared something about a guy on YouTube, and he had prophesied some things and put some dates to it, and it was in Newsweek. Now, this guy didn't have a really big channel or anything like that, and so they quoted this guy. Well, there was a couple of reasons why I believe they did it. One is because they're trying to discredit the prophetic. So when the dates don't come to pass, now the prophetic's been discredited. That was one thing. Now, my sister actually came up with this, and it hit her like a bolt of lightning. She said, basically, they're trying to keep them from reaching the president. Here's what's happening right now. This is way bigger than people can imagine.
Yeah.
The false prophetic, the false pastors, teachers, and evangelists, the false ones out there, this is all about one thing, Paul. It's all about having the king's ear. Yeah. Everybody wants the king's ear. They don't want the true prophetic coming near the king, the president. Right. So this is about protecting the president and protecting the old religious order. Because the second a true prophetic voice comes in there, he's going to see what's going on. He's going to prophesy the downfall of the old religious order, which, by the way, has already been prophesied. I'm telling you now, it's going to come down. But the point being is they don't want the true prophetic near the king. It is not biblical to have a pastoral advisory board. Who is the one who advises the king? The prophet. Prophets, period. Why? Because they're there to protect America. They're there to protect. They're there to call out things that aren't right. I mean, it's frustrating sometimes, but it's like, one person had mentioned this, and I'm reading right now. They said there's a certain person that has to get into place to get past the prophets. So in order to get in that position, they have to get past the true prophets. What do we see happening with the spiritual advisory board? They're a bunch of vipers.
Yeah.
Most of them. I'm not going to say all of them. Most of them are vipers.
Right.
And we all know who the head of that spiritual advisory board is, which I'm not a fan of. Sorry, just not. And so when you look at this, they're doing everything. I think some of this is from that spiritual advisory board, because I said there's a betrayal coming from the spiritual advisory board. I've been saying it for 2 years now. There's a betrayal coming. And I believe it has to do with the arrests, that when they arrest Obama and these guys and the streets get heated, they're going to have a kumbaya moment where they're going to tell the president, again, from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it's going to sound like God, it's going to taste like God, smell like God, when in fact it is pure evil. They will come to him and say, we need you to pardon these people. And what God is saying is no, absolutely not.
Right.
That is not the heart of God, is to pardon these evil individuals. The heart of God is maximum sentence, maximum penalty under the law. And if that means execution for treason, so be it. God chose Donald Trump for such a time as this to literally give justice on the earth, to bring in justice on the earth. Now, I'm not saying they can't save their souls, because we can still pray for them, but that's not going to stop the justice that's inbound. It's not going to do it, but they will try that. They will try and sway him in an ungodliness. They will make it sound godly to the president. You see, they got the king's ear. They don't want a true prophet in there telling them stuff. Right. So they're doing everything they can to keep the true prophetic out. So therefore, they're trying to come back. They're trying to steal stuff. They're trying to discredit the prophetic. There's a big move trying to discredit the prophetic, but it's all about the king's ear.
That is powerful, brother. You know, we could pray for their salvation, but they can get saved in prison.
That's right. They get saved at Gitmo. They can get saved at Gitmo.
That's right.
So I mean, look, this is deep stuff, and I believe the spiritual advisory board is part of this. I'm sorry, I'm just going to call it out. There was a picture. Let me tell you about betrayal here for a second. There was a picture by a mega pastor, and in the picture, he had his phone out like this, and he had his hand in the middle of the president's back, praying for him. There was another hand to the left, and there was a female hand to the right. It was Paula White's hand.
Taking a picture.
And it was Rodney Howard, I think, took the picture, because he said so on television. This is his own words. Now, look, when I saw that picture, I saw a lot of prophetic in that picture. For him to, if, I don't know that he did, if the president knew and gave him permission to take the picture, that's fine. Don't have a problem with that. If he didn't, if he took the picture behind the president's back, prophetically, that was already a type of betrayal. Why would you do that and then cast it out publicly?
Right.
The hands were also represented while laying hands and giving the illusion of praying for the president while sliding the knife in his back was one of those three. Now, I'm not saying it was him, but that's what I got prophetically.
Yeah.
That these spiritual advisors are laying hands on this president while they're sliding the knife in his back, spiritually. There are such things as spiritual assassins. Literally. Absolutely. What does a spiritual assassin do? He can come in and start casting curses. They think that the White House has been cleaned out. It's not been cleaned out because you've got these people in here who are getting their information psychically, or that's how they're pulling on it. There is an open portal there. There's an open door, a gate. And you got to ask yourself, who is the spiritual advisory gatekeeper?
Come on.
Sorry. I'm just going to call it out. I'm not a fan. I'm sorry. It is. And I think that this is where a lot of the betrayal is coming from. This is where it's going to come from. Now, people can attack me. They can get mad at me all they want to. But that picture spoke volumes to me. Because if the president did not give permission for that, you took it behind his back. That was one. And then number two, somebody with those hands was praying for this president while sliding a knife in him. I'm sorry. I'm just calling it like what was shown to me.
All right. And people need to realize there's a huge difference between what we see with their natural eye and the spiritual world.
That's right.
Things can manipulate and move so fast in the spiritual world and get themselves into position. Demons and angels can get themselves into positions to move on somebody. And sometimes we don't even know it until it's too late. So we have to realize that this is a spiritual war. It goes on in the spirit before it manifests into the flesh. And that's the thing we have to realize. when we see something in the spirit, man, I've seen some stuff in the spirit that I never ever want to manifest in the flesh. But God has me pray for it and move and block it. So it's very important that we realize there's things going on in the spiritual realm that we're not even aware of unless we're spiritually discerned and need to pray about it.
That's right. And it's happening all around the president right now. So we need to be praying.